A frustrated "damn it" rings out from an apartment beneath the night sky. Inside, Shu clicks his controller furiously, fully absorbed in the video game in front of him. More Sheet of Shu is shocked and wonders why such a powerful monster appeared in this area. Only one step remained in his material-gathering quest when he was defeated. He laments that the rare material he needed never dropped from the monster. A notification appears on the screen, reflected in his glasses. Windows rattle as a cry of pure joy erupts from his apartment building. Brief images of a cheerful young girl and a kind woman pass through his mind. The world warps around him, and he is suddenly thrown off balance. Tumbling through an abstract void, he has no idea where on earth he is. Landing, he clutches his head and tries to make sense of the impossible sequence of events. A calm voice greets him, and he turns, startled by the radiant divine figure. Stammering, he asks who the person is as a horrifying thought dawns on him. Smiling, the figure says they will speak in a way he can easily understand. They claimed to be God, a version from another world, not his own. Clenching his fist, Shu asks whether this means he is really dead. Confirmation of his death shatters his composure instantly. Screaming that it's a lie, he cannot accept his sudden death. Not completing his material collections across all his favorite games is his biggest regret. God listens with an amused expression and remarks on his deep love of collecting. She looks back on his lifelong passion, tracing it to his earliest childhood memories. As an adult, his obsession persisted, and he ignored storylines for the thrill of gathering. He remembers grinding to get rare items like the fabled lotus berry from Rotobagos Island. His eyes light up with joy at the thought of the lore behind these digital treasures. Imagining how these fantastical items were used in their game worlds delighted him. Scratching his head, he thinks about why he loves collecting so much. God offers repeated attempts, reincarnation, and the gathering of materials to his heart's content. The sudden, incredible proposal left her speechless and confused. He asks what God means, and the deity starts explaining the situation. God points and says they summoned him to be sent to another world. The revelation stunned her as the reality finally sank in. He sees this as the trendy reincarnation trope, much to the deity's slight annoyance. God admits they sometimes miscalculate when sending magic, upsetting a world's fragile balance. The deity points at Shu and says this is where he comes in. His body will be used as a conduit to gradually channel magic into the world. God reassures him that his new body will be strong and suffer no harm. She stays silent for a moment, taking in the incredible news he received. At last, he asked the most important question. He wanted to know why he had been chosen. The deity's eyes crinkle into a gentle, knowing smile as they begin to explain. A crackling energy of passion filled his soul, and even his Shu seemed to apologize for it. God leans in and offers him a valuable piece of inside information. This new world is full of the rare, charming materials he collects. The offer feels almost too good to be true, a second chance to pursue his passion. A flicker of unease lingers, but the opportunity is too tempting to ignore. He stakes his new life on gathering materials, his greatest passion. Looking up with his mind made up, he tells God he understands. Now determined, he formally requests a transfer to the other world. God smiles, pleased with his decision, and thanks him for his cooperation. The deity wishes him success in his future efforts to gather materials. The transition starts as his awareness drifts out of the ethereal void. Though he wonders if it was all a dream, he knows he was actually transferred. Sent to a new world, he finds a place filled with endless possibilities. A sharp gasp wakes him under a tree beside a babbling stream. Coughing, he crawls to the water's edge and drinks to calm himself. A glimpse of his reflection in the water shocks him. He looks much younger, almost a teenager, and wears unfamiliar practical clothes. He sees his youthful looks as part of the sturdy body God gave him. He sees God's care in placing him near a vital water source. Reality hits him, and he has really arrived in another world. A genuine, heartfelt smile lights his face as he takes it all in. A surge of excitement and purpose makes him clench his fist and prepare to begin. He announces the start of his new life-gathering materials in another world. His initial burst of enthusiasm runs into a practical problem. He stands in a wide open meadow, unsure which way to go. Securing a source of fresh water becomes his top priority. At the stream, he hesitates, unsure if the water is safe to drink. He worries it might need to be boiled or purified, and then something strange happens. A text box forms in his mind, confirming the water is safe to drink. He remembers God saying they would give him a special ability to help him survive. In a flashback, God tells him they will give him a power for this new world. The deity asked if he wanted a special ability. Shu had asked what kind of world they were sending him to. God said it was like the games he used to play until he died. A dangerous fantasy world of magic, monsters, and countless enchanting resources. Thinking about new materials made him blush with excitement. Taking in the information, he saw a world of swords and sorcery, a true fantasy realm. He worried he couldn't survive as a simple salaryman without any combat skills. Sensing his concern, God offered to give him a power to help. He asked for the power to enjoy a slow, peaceful life, gathering materials. Trying to avoid a game over, he asked for a way to sense danger. God understood his request for a quiet life of gathering possessions. They agreed to give him enough power so he would not die right away. God called us humble, yet greedy, and a little indulgent. He realizes this is the ability God gave him, his unique skill. Trusting the divine guidance, he drinks deeply from the river. A sip of the water was crisp, clean, and unbelievably delicious, a shock to his system. Amazed by the taste, he wonders what he'd been drinking his whole life. He realizes he needs a way to carry this amazing water with him. He remembers his bag and hopes God put a water skin or something like it inside. His hand slips into the small leather pouch at his hip and feels for the contents. Shocked by the bag's depth, he realizes it is full of items. He sets up the impossible haul: tools, food, money, a sword, and other items. Grinning, he sees the small pouch holds far more than its size should allow. He decides to read the sealed letter from God to learn about his new gear. The letter says the magic bag contains a compressed space where time has stopped. As he reads, he thinks about what other remarkable abilities he now has. He discovers he has two skills: appraisal for finding information and survey for locating materials. He realized his appraisal skill had told him the river water was safe. Eager to try it, he tests his unique survey skill right away. He sees waves of magic spreading out like ripples on the water. Shu drew a deep, steady breath and prepared to use his new power. Alone in the vast field, he prepared to begin his survey. A breeze moved through the tall grass around him. Beneath the stream's surface, fish swam in clear, cool water. A perfect dewdrop clung to the tip of a leaf. Everyone held their breath as the droplet fell. A moment of total focus. His eyes snapped open, and he unleashed his power with a single word: survey. He gasped in amazement at the sight before him, wondering what it was. Nearby, a mushroom gave off a soft, ethereal glow, a hidden treasure. A root, poking out of the ground, also shimmered with a strange energy. Dozens of shimmering lights now dotted the landscape. Stunned, he doubted that all of these were real materials. Greed spread into a wide grin across his face, the joy of a true collector. He ran straight toward the nearest light to investigate it. Approaching the spot, he saw a strange, fluffy flower in the grass. He wondered whether the pretty flower could be of any use. It was the perfect time for him to use his other skill, appraisal. A text box popped into his head, labeling the plant an azami thistle. He was amazed to find it was a medicinal herb and that he knew how to harvest it. The appraisal even marked the exact spot on the route for him to pull from. A deep, joyful smile spread across his face as he felt a strong connection. He was excited to finally gather the materials himself. Hugging the jar, he called the Azami thistle his first official find. Admiring his prize, he had a sudden thought. He remembered God calling his wish for a slow, simple life bold. It hit him that his two skills made gathering unfairly easy. He sealed the jar carefully and vowed to stay humble and avoid foolish risks. Bag adjusted, he was ready to move on to his next objective. The river should lead toward Fair Mill Village, his logical destination. Stepping toward the village, he stopped abruptly. A mischievous grin spread across his face as he thought. But before that, running off, he shouted that he couldn't possibly leave all those materials behind. Later, he panted heavily in the shade of the trees. Completely out of breath from a frantic, excited spree of gathering, he gasped. He collapsed in the hall, surrounded by others, admitting he had gotten carried away. The magic bag amazed him because it held everything without getting heavier. Realizing his current method was too unfocused, he examined it closely. So many lights dazzled, making it hard to concentrate. He wanted to narrow his search to more specific targets. He decided to refine his search to test the limits of his skills. Focusing his intent, he searched for the material Wagner's Fang. Everything worked perfectly, and he was delighted by how easy the targeted search was. Seeing the targets nearby, he felt it would be a waste not to get them. While watching the signals, something about their behavior caught his eye. Noticing the lights shifting slightly, he wondered what that meant. He realized the signals came from just beyond the tall grass. His eyes shot open, and a sudden dawning horror washed over him as he understood. He quickly activated his appraisal skill and felt a desperate panic. A small picture formed in his mind, identifying the creature as a Wagner. Peering over the grass, he spotted the monster's pointed ears in the distance. He immediately dropped back down, his heart pounding. Shaken but relieved, he realized his survey had detected a living monster. By staying away from moving lights, he could now avoid monsters. Clenching his fist, he thanked God for such a useful and versatile skill. He realized it was time to head to the village before night fell. Standing up, he saw a bright flash of light in the distance. A bright, golden light appeared suddenly, startling him. He wondered whether the far-off beacon of light could be a physical object. He hesitated, knowing it was late and he should leave. His collector's instinct took over, and he ran off, promising this was the last one. He remembered the other lights were blue and purple, and was curious about the color difference. Far away, the golden light pulsed with a powerful magnetic energy. He moved closer, his expression focused and excited. He pushed on, telling himself he was almost there. He arrived and found a large, smooth, glowing object resting in a clearing. His throat tightened, and his eyes went wide with wonder at the beautiful item. Trembling, he reached out and whispered how beautiful it was. He picked it up and was surprised at how light and sparkly it felt. He held it up to the light and saw it shimmer like a mirror. Heart-pounding, he used his appraisal skill. Information appeared revealing a legendary red dragon scale. Staggering back in shock, he shouted for everyone to wait a moment. He pictured a fearsome dragon, aware those items were always heavily guarded. Panicking, he used his survey skill to look for another scale right away. Silence settled over the forest, and no other signals appeared. A long, shaky sigh of relief escaped him as he wiped sweat from his brow. He figured it was a special first-day login bonus from God. Pausing, he assembled the pieces of his discovery. He proposed that the light's color shows how rare the material is. Sitting on the grass, he held the incredible dragon scale in his hands. His face broke into a wide, joyful smile as he admired his new treasure. Standing up, he felt satisfied and finally ready to head to the village. The world town of Fermal appeared in the distance, and he was excited to finally arrive. his face lit up with pure wonder as he neared civilization. At the main gate, he announced that he had finally made it. He hesitated, his heart pounding at the thought of meeting a human for the first time. Stepping forward with determination, he wondered what kind of encounter awaited him. A stern-looking guard, holding a spear, met him immediately. She stammered nervously and asked if this was really from El Village. The guard confirmed it, studying him with clear, intense suspicion. In a gruff voice, he demanded to know what Shu was doing in such a rural place. Shu cleared his throat and gathered himself to give a friendly introduction. Introducing himself as Sai Shu Shu, he was a traveler collecting materials and looking for a place to stay. Relief softened the guard's face when he met a specialist adventurer. Laughing, he said the forest was full of monsters, which explained his caution. Loran, a friendly guard, said he was from the village self-defense force. Apologizing for his hostility, he said the village rarely gets visitors. Relief warmed her cheeks as Lauren offered him a friendly handshake. Gratefully, he shook the guard's hand and thanked him for his kindness. Walking along, Lauren noted that her name was strange and unusual. Curious, Lauren asks Shu about his family name. A cold panic hits Shu when they realize only nobles have family names in this world. Lauren lifts an eyebrow and asks Shu directly if he is a nobleman. Nervously, Shulaf says his name simply means gathering, which amuses Lauren. Lauren shrugs it off, saying Shu must be tired from his trip. Pointing down the village street, he directs Shu toward the large inn. Lorraine smiles broadly as she officially welcomes him to Furmail Village. Shu's face brightens with genuine gratitude as he thanks the friendly guard. Walking happily through the village, he enjoys the charming scenery. He walks past several quaint, timber-framed houses where children play. A small group of children stops playing and stares at the newcomer. Shu gives them a small, friendly wave as he walks by. Children wave back shyly from a distance. Up close, the children wave with bright, cheerful faces. Shu smiles to himself, feeling peaceful and relieved. He thinks Furmal is a very nice village. Soon, he reaches the end and looks up at the simple sign. Recognizing it as his destination, he is amazed he can read the script. He feels secure and grateful for God's support. Entering the empty room, he calls out a polite hello. A small voice speaks up, just as he wonders if anyone is nearby. Startled, she turned quickly toward the unexpected sound behind him. Freckled and braided, a young girl asks if he is a customer. Excitement makes her eyes widen when she realizes they have a guest. Turning, she calls to her mother to say a customer has arrived. From upstairs, a woman replies that she's on her way down. A woman with a kind face and freckles appears, her expression warm and welcoming. His unfamiliar face tells her he is a traveler. Shu confirms he has just arrived in the village. Smiling brightly, he introduces himself as Shu. The woman introduces herself as Anna, the innkeeper, and her daughter Nico. Shu greets Nico by name, and Nico shyly says her own name back. Shu stands at the front desk and asks if any rooms are available. Anna reassures him there is, explaining that guests are quite rare. Smiling, she says the rate is 4 copper coins for a night's stay. Shu worries about having enough cash on hand to pay for a room. Repeating the price, he looks unsure if he can afford it. A bead of sweat forms as he worries about not having enough money. Nervously, he gets Anna's attention to explain his predicament. He admits he's from abroad and doesn't understand the local currency. Anna clearly explains coin values from copper through platinum. Relieved, she happily books a room that includes meals for the next 10 days. Anna asked Nico to take their new guest to his room. Walking upstairs, Nico proudly points out how spacious it is at the end. Chu is thrilled to discover that the Rust has a proper bath again. Anna says he can use it for only 1 copper coin. At the door, Nico stands proudly and says this is his room. Sho is impressed by the clean, spacious, well-furnished chamber. The lovely room is almost too much for one person, he exclaims. Nico puffs his chest out with pride and asks if he needs anything else. Remembering his haul, she asks where he could sell materials. Nico recommends a place owned by a man named Botan. Sho eagerly asks if she can guide him there, and she readily agrees. She tells him to call her after he has rested. "Any thanks, sir." Closing the door, Nico stops to make one last important request. Insisting earnestly, she tells him he must promise to call for her. Shu laughs warmly and promises he'll definitely ask Nico for help. Settling onto the bed, he relaxes after a long day's journey. He's smiling because the first people he met were so kind. A slow pan reveals the quiet rooftops of Thermal Village. Rested, she sits on his bed and sorts through the herbs he gathered. First, he sells the materials used to make the equipment. His eyes fall on the beautiful sparkling dragon scale he found. Clutching it tightly, he decides to keep the precious treasure for himself. The scene shifts to a light, dotted background. Shu finds Nico in the hallway, carefully mopping the wooden floor. He approaches her and asks if she's free and ready to guide him. Startled, Nico drops her mop and insists she's not busy at all. Anna overhears and reminds her daughter not to break the promise she made to a guest. Smiling, it tells Nico she can go. Anna Muse is wondering whether Nico is just avoiding her chores. She decides helping a guest is another good way to contribute. Chu chuckles softly at the touching family moment. Anna says she is also curious about what Shu has found. She hopes he has something interesting for her husband. Reassures him that he does not need to worry even if her husband is uninterested. Cut to the outside of a quaint village shop. Nico proudly points to the general store button, the go-to place for tools. Shu steps inside and says hello to announce his arrival. His eyes widen, filled with wonder at the sight before him. Packed floor to ceiling, the shop holds all kinds of goods. The amazing Shu breeze was completely captivated by the collection. He spots familiar items such as bowls and other kitchen utensils. He finds strange glowing crystals with no known purpose. The whole shop is a cluttered treasure trove for a collector like him. He remembers the starter kit God gave him had no cooking tools. A metal device that looks like a portable stove catches his eye. Instinctively, he uses his powerful appraisal skill to learn more about it. He's pleased to find its affordable cassette-style stove. Hunger hits him when he imagines grilled mushrooms, but the price is staggering. He realizes that the 1 platinum coin price tag makes it a true luxury item. At that moment, the shop door creaks open with a sharp, startling noise. A stoned man in spectacles walks in and apologizes for his absence. Nico greets him as Botan and he asks if she is running an errand. She explains that she is guiding a guest who wants to sell materials. Tan recognizes Shu as the new traveler he'd heard about. Botan introduces himself politely as the owner of the general store. Shu introduces himself and asks Botan to review his materials. Botan agrees eagerly, pleased to accept goods from an outsider. Shu sets his bag on the counter and prepares to start the transaction. But Tan, the shopkeeper, adjusts his glasses and looks intently at a satchel of shoes, humming thoughtfully. A shock of recognition makes his eyes widen when he sees the item is a magic bag. A flustered Shu asked how he could know what it was by just looking. Botan confirms and explains that he has only seen one before, during a trip to a large city. The bag is described as a legendary artifact, a treasure of illusion made by ancient masters. Stunned, Botan asked Shu where he had gotten such a precious item. Shu panics inside because he knows he can't possibly explain that it was a gift from God. Clutching his chest, he fakes a sudden pang of grief when Botan asks what's wrong. Shu says sadly the bag was a gift from someone who has passed away. Moved by the tragic story, Botan is fully convinced and looks serious and sympathetic. He notes that Shu must have great resolve to bear such a burden at such a young age. Patan apologizes for his tactless question and suggests they finally begin the material appraisal. He looks over the common herbs and mushrooms and says they're all useful. He will pay 7 bronze and 1 silver for the herbs and 3 silver for the Wagner fangs. She figures out the color of his survey light indicates an item's value. Next, he reveals another treasure, a perfectly preserved snakeskin coiled inside a box. Bolton's eyes lit with a craftsman's gleam, declaring the white snakeskin magnificent. She remembers the skin's distinctive orange glow and hopes to get about 8 silver coins. Beside Nico, Baton is about to make an offer that will amaze them both. Inside the quiet shop, Baton calmly offers 4 gold coins for the skin. Shu and Nico's eyes pop out of their heads in a synchronized, cartoonish shock. Shu shouts in disbelief at the high price, while Boughton mistakes his reaction for disappointment. Button explains that white snake skins are extremely rare and highly valuable in their part of the world. Believing his offer was too low, he quickly raises it to 5, then 6 gold coins. Nico says she's found snake skins before, but they were never worth that much. Clearing his throat, Boughton prepares to lecture them on the real value of the material. He says pristine white skin is very popular with the nobility. He stresses that owning a bag made from the skin is an important status symbol. In the capital, he says it would fetch an even higher price. Beaming, she insists the original offer was more than enough and accepts it happily. Relieved, Barton clasps his hands and thanks Shu for the transaction. Appraising the valuable moonflower, he offers a respectable 3 silver coins for it. Boughton explains the flower soaks up moonlight, making it an essential ingredient in recovery potions. He praises Shu's skill, calling him a master appraiser for finding such high-quality items. She says he was just bluffing, but he's finally getting a feel for market prices. Boughton notes again that these items would fetch an even higher price in the capital. Smiling confidently, Shu decides he can trust Boughton as an honest merchant. Bowden places a small, heavy pouch of coins on the tray to finalize their business. Shu accepts the payment and adds it up to a new total of 10 gold and 2 silver coins. Amazed by how profitable this new world is, he feels like he has hit the jackpot. Nico looks up at Shu, amazed that just collecting materials can earn someone so much money. Baton corrects her, saying it's not always so lucrative. Shu's is exceptionally skilled. Shulaf stays humble, thinking his unique God-given skills are the real secret. Clutching the coin pouch, he realizes he can earn even more by mastering his abilities. Just as Shu and Nico turn to leave the shop, Bolton calls to them. At his desk, Patan says he has a favor to ask that requires skills with shoes. Surprised by the request, she turns back and asks what the shopkeeper needs. Leaning forward with a hopeful look, Bhutan asks Shu to find him a full moon flower. Shu and Nico look up, their faces a mix of confusion and curiosity at the rare item's name. Shu pauses to process the unexpected request, a bead of sweat on his brow. Bought and repeated the name Full Moon Flower, officially starting the next challenging quest for Shu's. Nico immediately figures it out and asks if it's a gift for her mother. Blushing Baton scratches his head and admits his wife's birthday is coming up soon. Overjoyed by the romantic gesture, Nico skips out of the room smiling. She pictures the beautiful legendary flower said to bring happiness to whoever receives it. She tells Shu the flower is extremely rare and hard to find. Shu pauses, torn between wanting to help and the task's apparent impossibility. Botton's voice cuts through his thoughts and pulls him back to the present. Smiling, Boughton reminds Shu about the magic conduction stove he was admiring earlier. Holding the strange mechanical device above his head, he offers to let Shu try it out. A botanics demonstration shows you simply put the magic stones into the glass chamber at the base. Shu holds one of the pretty pebble-like stones and wonders if his appraisal skill will work on it. The skill takes effect, and the stones in the box glow with a magical light. An information panel explains that magic stones are mana crystals formed inside monsters. Shu realizes he can use his survey skill on these stones to detect all nearby monsters. Button snaps him out of his thoughts and apologizes for distracting him. Continuing the demonstration, he explains that you simply close the lid and turn the knob. A soft click instantly brings a clean, steady flame to life on the stove's burner. Shu and Nico stare in amazement at how easily the magic fire formed. Nico says cooking would be much easier if they had a device like that at home. Botan leans in, his glass catching the light as he prepares his final irresistible sales pitch. He vividly describes Shu cooking fresh mushrooms and fish on a stove in the wild. He offers an incredible deal. Find the flour and he'll sell the stove at a huge discount. Shu's eyes gleam with determination as he accepts the quest and vows to ensure their marital bliss. Baton explains that his wife's birthday is in just 4 days and apologizes for the short notice. Shu bows his head as the tight deadline's immense pressure suddenly weighs on him. Confident, Nico gives a quick word of encouragement, sure his skill will lead him to the flower. They admit that with so few leads, finding the shoe size will be extremely difficult. Nico's successor's father might have seen it since he used to play in the forest as a child. Instantly re-energized, Shu asked her to introduce him to her father right away. At the end, Nico returns and cheerfully announces she is home. A handsome man with reddish-blonde hair turns and greets his daughter with a warm smile. Recognizing him instantly, she watches his jaw drop as he says her name, Lauren. Lauren greets Shu, who asks if he's also staying at the inn, and the guard just laughs. As she starts to put the pieces together, his face shows dawning realization. The bond is clear when Nico happily leaps into Lawrence's arms and calls him Dad. She couldn't believe that Lauren was really Nico's father, and Lauren confirmed that he was. Lauren playfully puts an arm around Shu and teases him for getting close to his daughter so quickly. From off-panel, Anna calls to her husband to stop acting foolish. She appears and asks Lauren to come help her prepare the evening meal. On his way out, Lauren gives Shu a thumbs up and promises him that Anna's cooking is the best. Smiling, Shu realizes he won't need a formal introduction and can just ask Lauren later. Night falls, and the stars appear above the quiet village. Completely exhausted after his eventful day, Shu collapses face first onto his bed with a soft thud. Lying spread-eagled, he thinks about how he somehow survived his first day in the new world. Lying in the dark, he realizes his body is tired, but he doesn't feel sleepy. Sitting up, he remembers the book God gave him and decides it's the perfect time to read. Pulling out the beginner's magic book, he thinks learning magic will help his work. A decorative page in the book reveals its core idea. Magic springs from each person's thoughts and wishes. Shu examines a diagram of the 6 magical elements and decides it's time to cast his first spell. While in his room, Shu decides that practicing fire magic indoors is too dangerous. Flipping through his grimoire, he finds an illustration for a light ball spell. He smiles slightly, thinking it's the perfect spell for reading. Closing his eyes, he gathers his will to cast the spell. Shouting the incantation light ball, he startles Nico, who is tending the flowers below. A brilliant explosion of light bursts from the second-story window at the end. Shu's eyes widen, reflecting the blinding magical light. Outside, Lauren and Anna cover their faces against the sudden, powerful flash. A shaft of pure light pierces the night sky and lights the whole village. Clutching his face, he screams in agony that his eyes are burning. The family bursts in, calling his name with worried expressions. Lying dazed on the floor, he insists every week that he's fine despite the chaos. Staring at his hand, he wonders what is wrong with his magic. Awareness slips into a familiar dark void. Awakening in the ethereal space, he sees a serene figure before him. Jolting upright, he recognizes God greeting him after his first day. Panic floods him when he realizes God's appearance must mean something terrible has happened. Crying out, he asks whether he somehow died on his very first day. God smiles gently and reassures him that they were only checking in. The deity asks how he's getting on in the new world now that he's settled in. Fear leaves Shu, replaced by a bright, enthusiastic smile. Excited, he talks about the abundance of material goods in his joyful new life. God listens with a fond smile. He is enjoying the world so much. Sitting cross-legged in the void, he feels he is getting used to these meetings. God asked if he had any trouble, and she remembers the magical mishap. He says he tried a simple spell, but found it overwhelmingly powerful. He asked whether God had accidentally handed him a cheat-level strategy guide. God says a spell's power depends on how much mana the caster has. A tiny chibi version of God who seems to prefer less power. God chuckles, amused that he is only now questioning his immense strength. Confused, Shulox remembered that God had promised him a peaceful life of gathering. God admits they expected him to be greedy, and his humility reassures them. His idea of a slow life is simply gathering herbs and stones, he clarifies. God is surprised to remember powerful dragons fought with shoes for materials and games. The deity says he was always meant to have immense power as a medium. A tiny chibi god objects that Shu never complained about being too strong. God reassures him he will learn to control his magic with practice. Shu clenches his fist, now determined to master his abilities. God acknowledges his time is up and wishes him well on his journey. With his eyes shining with gratitude, he thanks the deity for their help. Snapping back to reality, he collapses onto the bed in his room. Morning dawns in the quiet village of Fermil. Shu comes down the stairs and greets Anna cheerfully in the morning. Anna asked him if he was okay last night, saying she was worried. He apologizes, explaining he was so exhausted he fell asleep immediately. When she asks about the flash, he lies about finding a strange, glowing substance. His stomach rumbles loudly, cutting through the awkward conversation. Laughing warmly, Anna says he must be hungry and invites him to eat. Shu's eyes light up at the thought of a warm breakfast. Standing amazed at the feast, he asks if it is really okay to have so much. It's been years since he had a proper hot breakfast. He folds his hands in thanks and gets ready to dig in. He eagerly takes a big bite of the thick, savory meat. Delicious flavor washes over him as he eats eagerly. He praises the soup for its bright colors and lively spices. He asks Anna about the ingredients, and she wonders whether he dislikes anything. Eyes sparkling, he eagerly asks for a second helping. Anna laughs and agrees to give him more as a special favor. Patting his full stomach, he sighs contentedly and thanks her for the meal. Lauren returns from patrol and announces he's home. Anna welcomes him back. Shul greets Lauren, is surprised to see him up and about. Lauren grabs him and urgently asks if he is okay after the room flashed with light. Remembering his plan, she says he needs to ask Lauren something. Seated at a table, Shu explains Boughton's request for a full moon flower. Lauren understands instantly, a slightly mischievous, unknowing smile on his face. He admits he's seen something like it before, but can't remember where. Watching intently, she thinks he could give her a flower if he finds a patch. Lauren says the only thing he remembers is a strange, glowing light in the forest. Shu is asking if he means a place that was sparkling in the sunlight. He seeks clarity while sunlight filters deep into the forest. Lauren describes a clearing where a single flower shone brightly on a sunny day. Shu puts the clues together and realizes the flower needs to grow in a sunny spot. Nico's mention of the flower base in moonlight confirms his theory. Grateful, he thanks Lauren, who was surprised that he figured it out so quickly. Shu Bao admits he does not yet have proof for his theory. Smiling brightly, he says he will go look for it right away. Lauren Cheersaman wished him well on his important quest. Shu sets off, sure he can find the forest Lauren described. Knowing the information is vague, he still has no other lead. Pausing, he takes in the world around him. The wind lifts his hair, carrying the scent of fresh grass. Closing his eyes, he takes in the calm of the new world. Snapping out of it, he knows he can't get sentimental before entering the woods. Grabs his grimoire, determined to be ready for anything. He believes no advanced VR game could match this immersive experience. Flipping through the book, he decides to learn fire magic for camping. He finds the right page showing an illustration of a small flame. He tells himself to relax and use less force this time. Yelling fire, he is blown back by a massive burst of flame. Panicked, he yells that it's hot and could spark a dangerous forest fire. He searches frantically for a counterspell and quickly finds one for water. Shouting water, he unleashes a powerful, uncontrolled torrent from his hands. The spell's immense force launches him backward through the air. Landing hard on the ground, he is drenched and sputtering. He understands that only focused practice will let him control his immense power. His wet coat hangs on a branch as he thinks fluid magic is hard to control. He seeks a more manageable spell he can use at close range. Discovering a spell called Freeze, he thinks it could be perfect for his needs. He discovers he can use it to subdue monsters without killing them. Renewed determination pushes him to try again, with more control. Shu lets out a determined cry and releases his freeze spell. Ice exploded from his hands, freezing the meadow solid. Sweat beads on his forehead when he realizes the effect is far stronger than he had imagined. He still believes it's the perfect spell to practice controlling his magic. He practices while looking for the full moon flower. Guided by Lauren's directions, he reaches the entrance to the southern forest. Peering into the woods, he notices how dim it is, even in daylight. Ahead, the path is cloaked in a constant foreboding twilight. He stops when a sudden brilliant idea strikes him. Holding a magic stone, he wonders whether his survey skill will work on it. Closing his eyes, he focuses and offers a silent prayer for success. By commanding survey, he unleashes the full power of his unique skill. Pure joy brightens his face. He can pinpoint the exact location of every monster. He thanks God for giving him such a handy ability. Now confident, he feels ready to enter the forest safely. He announces that his hunt for the full moon flower has officially begun. Immediately, he stops resisting the pull of other materials. Still, he collapses to his feet. The temptations are simply too overwhelming. He knows he can't ignore all the valuable items around him. He notices a red-capped mushroom and a purple-capped mushroom he's never seen before. He discovers a peculiar curled plant and names it Mami Grass. He loves the satisfying snap it makes at harvest. He marvels at the real feel of gathering things with his own hands. Fatigue and hunger are real experiences, not just numbers on a screen. A loud rumbling growl from his stomach interrupts his thoughts. He looks up and sees the sun high overhead, showing it is noon. Panicking, he realizes he has been sidetracked and done nothing toward his quest. Sighing, he decides it's time to take a break and eat. A knock wakes a guard at the village gate on the third morning. The guard rubs his eyes and wonders who could be calling at this hour. Shu greets him with a bright smile and a cheerful good morning. The guard asks if he's going back to the southern forest again. Shu confirms that today is the deadline and says he must find it. A second guard notes his dedication, and she agrees that they both work hard. The first guard hands him a pot of coffee from Anna. Waving, Shu calls out that he's leaving and heads toward the forest. The guard watches him leave and remarks on how diligent he is. His companion takes a sip of coffee and nods in agreement. Startled, they see Botan standing below, having overheard them. Botan gazes toward the forest, murmuring the name of the full moon flower. Recalling his failed attempts, he felt intimidated by the monsters within. He is quietly confident that Shu will be the one to succeed. When night falls, the shurikens on the full moon flower glow in the dark. It should be much easier to spot now, he thinks. Knowing monsters are more active at night, he still feels he has no choice. With the birthday looming, he searches determinedly for the flower. Tension tightens his face as he concentrates under the intense pressure of the deadline. He feels relieved to discover his skill can spot monster-like glows in the dark. Choosing caution, he repeatedly uses his survey skill. For hours, he gathers materials while watching for his target. Looking up at the sky, he realizes how much time has passed. He narrowly dodges a nocturnal predator diving out of its path. The vast dark forest seems endless. Gasping with exhaustion, he despairs that he still hasn't found the flower. Watching the setting moon, he worries dawn will arrive too soon. Suddenly his eyes go wide in shock as he spots something. Breaking into a run, he sees a beam of moonlight nearby. He burst into a clearing and froze as a massive shadowy bear loomed before him. A jolt of sheer terror makes his heart hammer in his chest. A low guttural growl rumbles from the bear as its eyes glow ominously. His hand automatically moves to the sword hilt at his belt. Stumbling back, he feels certain he's done for. Instinctively, he turns and runs from the terrifying beast. He holds back, knowing it would be a fatal mistake. The bear watches him, as if waiting for his next move. Forcing himself to stay calm, he uses his appraisal skill. Skill detects the monster as a blue grizzly with danger rank B. Terrified, he realizes that running would have set off its attack instinct. Panicking at the B-rank threat, he still notes its value with a collector's eye. The bear snarls as its patience wears thin. The massive beast charges forward with a deafening roar to attack. Shu throws his hands up and unleashes a desperate, full-power freeze spell. A charging bear is instantly trapped in a jagged, glittering tomb of ice. Panting, he stares at the frozen aftermath of his overwhelming magic. He drifts down as dust settles around the massive ice statue. He stares at the bear's snarling face, frozen forever in a moment of fury. Landing with a triumphant smile, he is thrilled that his magic practice paid off. Cautiously tapping the thick ice, he is amazed he just froze such a huge creature. Seeing the frozen beast up close, he finds it even scarier. A sudden thought hits him, and he remembers his true purpose. In a single beam of moonlight, the beautiful full moon flower glows. Standing before it, he is mesmerized by its ethereal beauty. A trembling hand reaches out, and he whispers that this must be it. His appraisal confirms its identity and notes that the root preserves its light. Holding the flower, he beams and says he has finally found it. He gently puts the glowing flower into a tall glass jar. He looks at his prize with pride. Having finally completed his quest, he feels happy. He seals the jar to keep its beautiful light in his magic bag. Glancing over his shoulder, he is unsure what to do next. His gaze lands on the huge frozen carcass of the blue grizzly. After a moment, he admits he doesn't know how to butcher a bear. A wild idea takes hold. He wonders if the whole thing could fit in his bag. He shoves the huge bear, frozen in ice, toward the bag's opening. Shock hits him as the whole thing disappears inside with a soft pop. Stunned, he sits on the ground and says it actually went in. He argues the bag's rule against living things doesn't apply if it's dead. Smiling with satisfaction, he decides to hurry back to the village. At dawn, he bursts into the inn with a cheerful greeting. An elegant woman he doesn't recognize meets him, holding a duster. Her warm smile leaves Shu utterly confused. An elegant woman with a warm, knowing smile asked whether he was a Shu. Taken off guard by the Shu, my stammer showed I was flustered when I said yes to confirm. At that moment, Bolton burst into the room, calling out the Shu's name excitedly. Grabbing Shu's hand, he thanks him for getting up so early. Bolton grins and realizes he has forgotten his manners. He proudly introduces her as his wife, Sonaria. Shu is stunned by her beauty and stammers that the pleasure is all his. Bolton is thrilled and confident it will make his wife's birthday perfect. A hopeful sparkle lights his eye as he asks about your business. Shu's mind jumps to the request, remembering the magic conduction stove. He asked if anything else had prompted Botan to invite him upstairs. Scenario watches them leave, a single question mark hanging in the air. Later, the scene moves to the hallway outside Shu's room. Botan knocks anxiously and asks if he managed to find the full moon flower. She opens the door with a calm smile and tells him not to worry. Proudly, he shows the glowing flower in a jar and claims he found it. Botan's face lights up with pure joy as he gasps. They gesture for silence to keep the surprise secret. Holding the jar boat, they marvel that it truly is the full moon flower. Whispering, he says it is beautiful as Shu watches, proud of his work. With emotion in his eyes, he thanks you sincerely for everything. He is sure Scenario will be delighted with the gift. Shu beams a wide, genuine smile and says he was happy to help. A bright, cloudy sky signals the start of a new day. Shu realizes the materials he collected have never helped anyone. He hurries back to the end to share the good news. He realizes his family must be worried about his absence. Returning with a cheerful grin, he reaches the end. Nico meets him right away, arms crossed and pouting fiercely. Quickly, she will apologize, realizing she must have been worried. He says he was delivering the gift for an upcoming birthday and gently scolds her daughter for bothering their guests. After worrying so much about him, Nico looks up, still upset. Shu suggests they all share in the happiness to accomplish two things at once. Anna announces a celebration and offers to cook anything he wants. Shu asked whether the skilled chef would prepare an ingredient Shu had brought. Dread floods Anna and Nico, and they freeze in place. Shu proudly brings out the massive blue grizzly on ice, and in its case, for dinner. Hearing the commotion, Lauren Burson demanded to know if Anna was safe. A blue grizzly's cry echoes through the village streets. Shocked by news of the monster, a woman leans out of her window. A couple on the street panic, unsure why a grizzly is here. Urgently, a man tells his companion to go among the guards. Amid the chaos, the best you can offer is a sheepish, apologetic smile. Sighing, he realizes he's caused another huge mess he now has to explain. A montage covers the next 2 weeks as Shu happily gathers materials. On Inspector's Strange, a stock-like vegetable Shu has brought him. Shu says it's a vegetable called gogogi. According to him, it is highly nutritious and can be brewed into tea. Batten checks his book and confirms Shu is right about the rare plant. He points out the Shu isn't native to the area, so it must have come from far away. He tells Shu that even the leaves will be a valuable ingredient. Baton explains that while he appreciates clearly defined items, it's been a huge help to his business. Gently, he asks whether Shu is beginning to feel dissatisfied with their small village. Shu glances down at his cup and admits he was thinking the same thing. It's time for him to move on to a new land, he declares. Botan listens silently, his face showing sad understanding. He admits a small village cannot hold back someone with talent for shoes. Smiling kindly, he says he looks forward to seeing Shu's future. He promises to let the whole village see him off on his last day. Shu is grateful to Boden for his kindness and support. Nico hears the news and, shocked, asks whether Shu is already leaving Thermal. Shu confirms he saved enough money thanks to Bonz's help. Nico collapses onto a table and wails that it will be boring without him. Anna playfully teases her daughter, saying she's clearly grown fond of shoes. Afterward, she scolds Nico for not being honest about her feelings. That evening, Lauren asked Shu where he planned to go next. She says his destination is the region's largest city. A panoramic view reveals the vast, fortified city of Grandtown. Lauren muses that Grand Tile seems like the perfect city for Shu. He says it has an adventurer's guild and mountains rich in ore. Shu brightens at the thought of finding all the new materials. Although excited, he will be sad to leave Nico. Looking at Lauren, he is filled with gratitude for the man's kindness. During his final meal, Shu thanks the family for their warm hospitality. The village gate is crowded with people on the day he leaves. Shu bows deeply to thank everyone for their kindness during his short stay. Anna insists they should be the ones to thank him for reviving the village. Little Shyly wishes Brother Bear's killer a safe journey. Drops of sweat on the shoes realize the Bear Killer Shoe nickname has officially stuck. A small, insistent tug pulls at the back of his cloak. Turning, he sees Nico hiding shyly behind his leg. Tears in her eyes, she pleads with him to promise he'll come back. Looking down at the little girl, she offers a gentle, reassuring smile. He promises to stay with her again, and she makes him swear to it. Lauren appears suddenly and says protectively that she can have his daughter. Shu is embarrassed by the sudden comical show of fatherly concern. Anna teases her husband, saying his shoe skills make him a great catch. Shu laughs with the crowd, feeling it's too soon for that talk. Leaving this wonderful, welcoming village makes him sad. Suddenly, he realizes that Botan in Scenaria isn't in the crowd. A horse's hoof comes into view as a familiar voice calls. Botanon Sonari sits at the reins as a horse-drawn carriage pulls up. They kindly offered to drive him part of the way to the city. Bowen quickly insists it's no trouble at all for them. He says they were already on their way to meet a merchant. Overwhelmed by their generosity, Shu gratefully accepts their offer. As the carriage pulls away, Anna calls out one last piece of advice, telling them to stay healthy. Shu waves goodbye and wishes everyone well as he leaves Firmau village. The shoot leaves the comfort of 4 Mill and moves toward new materials and companions. A cheerful cat girl carrying a basket of fresh bread announces their arrival. Gesturing toward a large inn, she proudly calls it the Cat's Tail Pavilion. Smiling warmly, she holds the door open for Shu to enter. Decorated with fine or knitted ironwork, the Incentrian shows its quality. The door clicks open as she offers to guide him inside. Shu peeks through the doorway, his face showing initial surprise. The surprise on his face quickly softens into a gentle, happy look of appreciation. A lively, diverse crowd fills the tavern. The ground floor is both the reception area and the main dining room. Mina, the cat girl, explains that the space turns into a pub at night. Shu thinks to himself that the inn has a bright, welcoming atmosphere. He sees many diligent cat people staff working around the room. Excited, he realizes it's like a cat, a truly delightful discovery. Mina asks whether he likes the inn, even though it can be a little noisy. A senior staff member calls out to Mina, saying she's late and must help. Mina quickly says she's with a customer and asks her colleague to wait. She notes that, interestingly, not all cat people appear in sentences with Nia. Mina shows his room, a simple yet clean and welcoming personal space. The room feels cozy and comfortable to him as Mina finishes the short tour. Mina's face turns serious as she states one final ironclad rule for the end. Shocked, she tried to figure out what the unbreakable rule was. She strictly forbids him to touch the ears or tails of the working staff. People are often curious, she explains, but touching them is startling and rude. Sweating nervously, Shu quickly agrees he understands the important rule. He admits they look fluffy, but he knows it's wrong to touch a stranger. Bowing deeply, he apologizes for thinking of it as a cat cafe. Mina is about to leave when Shu urgently calls her name. He pleads with her to tell him one more vital detail. Mina looks back at him, curious and a little confused. Inside this grand bathhouse is the answer to his desperate question. Shu soaks in a large, steaming bath and feels fully revived. Nothing can replace the pure bliss of a proper hot bath, he thinks. Studying the grand architecture, he realizes it is not a natural hot spring. A small dragon-like creature serves as a magical heater that he finds convenient. A brief panic hits him as he imagines the devastation his own powerful magic would cause. Relaxing, he notices a pleasant herbal scent in the air. Long silver hair falls around him as he carefully adds herbs to the water. Shoot cheerfully, paddle over, and ask the man what he is doing. The man says the innkeeper asked him to prepare a special medicinal bath. This special blend is designed to relieve fatigue and heal the wounds from adventures. He says he periodically adjusts the mixture as part of his research. Xu introduces himself with excitement as a new adventurer on his way to the guild. Admitting it sheepishly, he says he is still a complete amateur. The man gives a faint, peaceful smile. He was glad Xu was enjoying the bath. As the pharmacist leaves, Xu thanks him respectfully for his hard work. Now fully relaxed, he plans to rest well and go to the guild tomorrow. He wonders how far his basic skills and God-given power will carry him. The next day, he finds himself standing before the massive, imposing Adventurers Guild. He looks up in pure awe, overwhelmed by its immense scale. Unlike in a game, these adventurers do not have visible ranks or levels. The veteran adventurer observes that everyone here looks like a seasoned pro. A large wolf man roughly orders him out of the entryway. Startled, Xu recoils at the sudden, aggressive admonishment. Steeling himself, he prepares to enter the hall with an air of confidence. He steps inside, his jaw dropping at the incredible sight before him. The guild hall is a chaotic, corrupt hive of activity and commerce. Peeking from behind the crowd, he is amazed by how many people are inside. Many people want to become adventurers. The main appeal seems to be the freedom and flexible working hours the job offers. A groan escapes him when he sees the very long line at the reception desk. He decides to wait and look around the great hall first. He notices a large crowd gathered around a huge bulletin board on the wall. Squeezing through the crowd, he complains about the downsides of being short. At last, the board comes into focus and his eyes widen in recognition. This is the quest board, covered with dozens of different request forms. The sheer number of quests impresses him, a sign of the guild's reputation. He studies the board, deciding which quest to take first. He first spots several monster subjugation quests of varying difficulty. He notes there are many monster quests posted on the board. On his earlier travels, he encountered the tough horn rabbits. As the material specialist, he knows combat quests aren't his concern. He looks toward another, more interesting section of the quest board. He's found a section devoted entirely to material gathering requests. His face lights up with pure joy at all the new exotic materials listed. He carefully reviews the difficulty ratings for each gathering quest. He finds many gathering quests are old and unpopular. Confidently, he tells himself he will be the one to clear the board. At the desk, he immediately asked to take on 2 challenging quests. He smiles widely as he greets the receptionist, a rabbit woman named Lapis. Eagerly, he describes his deep, lasting passion for collecting materials. Overwhelmed by his energy, Lapis frantically asked him to wait a moment. She pauses to catch her breath after his barrage of words. Calmly, she asks whether this is his first time registering, and he confirms that it is. Steadying herself, she is ready to explain the guild's official system to him. This explains the F2S ranking system used for all adventures. She tells him that, as a newcomer, he must start his career at F rank. She says Quessa ranked them, and he can only take certain ones. That means the C and D rank quests he wanted are currently within reach. She warns him to pick his quest carefully, since failure carries a penalty. Xu apologizes sheepishly for misunderstanding the rules because he was too eager. Now that Lapis understands, he begins the official registration procedure. At the counter, she opens the drawer in her desk and takes out a special item. Presenting a guild plate, she asks him to add his magic to it. Focused, Xu takes the plate and prepares for the task. He asks about the plate, and she explains that it tracks quest status. When the plate recognizes his unique magic, it will track his entire career. It works much like the fingerprint authentication in his old world, he realizes. Carefully, he directs his magical energy into the plate. A moment later, a small crack forms at the corner of the glass plate. A sharp crack shattered the magical guild plates, sending pieces flying as a hand shot out. Shu stares in profile, a bead of sweat rolling down his face, causing stunned silence. Lapis, the receptionist, is equally shocked, covering her mouth with her hands in disbelief. Shu stammers, asking what happened as Lapis apologizes profusely for the broken plate. She voices her worry that he might have to pay for the expensive magic stone plate. Shu quickly says the plate was probably just old and worn. Inwardly, he scolds himself for the mistake and vows to control his magic better. Returning with a new plate, Lepus asks him to try registering again. God's advice echoes in his mind, reminding him that with practice, he can control his power. Shu examines the new plate, determined to succeed on the second try. He imagines his vast power as a thin, fragile thread sliding into the glass. A soft, steady light glows from the plate as it registers his magic. Lapis beams, claps her hands, and says it's okay this time. Shu feels relieved when Lapis tells him his registration with the Adventures Guild is complete. Lapis then asks whether he's done for the day or has other plans. With eyes wide and excited, Shu asks right away if he can accept a quest now. A close-up shows his mouth set in a determined, eager smile. He asked her to set him up with enthusiasm, surprising the receptionist with his energy. Lapis realizes she's never seen anyone so eager to start work. A smile crosses her face as she realizes the newcomer has a deep passion for gathering materials. She replies in a professional tone that she understands, then asks which quest he would like to take. Shu cheerfully points to two things, the Azami thistle and the luminous moss that startles the Lapis. She stops him and points out that the luminous moss quest is difficulty E, higher than his F rank. Still confused, she was asked to clarify because he believed he could raise Quest 1's rank. Lapis explains the rule applies only to proven adventurers, not to a brand new registrant. Remembering the broken plate, she decides not to cause her any more trouble. Nodding seriously, he agrees it's best to be cautious and begin with a suitable quest. Relieved that he understands, Lapis smiles and offers to recommend a perfect beginner quest. Gather alkinko, crescenza honey, or mint leaves to start, she suggests. Shu strokes his chin thoughtfully and says he understands her recommendations. Smiling brightly, he holds up 3 fingers and says he will do all 3. All of them! Lapis shrieks, her professional composure completely shattered by his audacity. With the other adventurers watching, she warns them about penalties for failure and tight deadlines. Giving her a confident thumbs up, Shu insists it's fine because he loves gathering so much. Lapis, aware of her size and feeling resigned, mutters that she gives up before preparing the 3 quest forms. She stamps, processes, and approves all 3 parts of Mr. Shu's request. She takes the forms, notes the 2-day deadline, and promises he will finish them all. He reviews his targets, starting with the alkinko and the crescenza. He asks Lapis if there is a place where he can view materials he is not familiar with. Lapis watches, slightly dazed by the whirlwind of enthusiasm that just hit her at the counter. A tiny cartoon version of her points toward the guild's reference library. Shu heads down a forest path, his first official adventure finally underway. Arriving in a quiet clearing, he notices no monsters and prepares to investigate. A flashback shows Lapis flustered when Shu immediately asked to see the library's references. A library book shows an illustration of crescentra honey and describes its many uses. Shumius doesn't know how to get the honey yet, but he's sure he'll figure it out. Gathering mint leaves is familiar because he has done it before. His face lights up as he anticipates the new undiscovered materials that await him. In the forest, he uses his survey skill to search specifically for alkinko mushrooms. He spots them and says his skill instantly found a patch of his target. He recalls Lapis saying the eastern forest was a great place to find them. Peeking from behind a tree, he gets ready to clear his first objective. Spotting a cluster of mushrooms, he thinks they look ordinary. Coming closer, he notices they look like ordinary mushrooms. Reaching out a finger, he thinks it might be a different species. The mushroom suddenly sprouts two spindly legs and lets out surprised yelps. Startled, he shouts as the mushroom scampers away from him into the woods. He remembers the library's description that Alchemist flee at the first sign of danger. Knowing he must give chase, he stomps his foot and prepares to pursue the creature. He starts to run, then stops when he sees the mushroom moving very slowly. He questions whether it's really okay for it to move that slowly after sprouting legs. He watched in amazement as other mushrooms were triggered and joined the first, forming a slow-moving herd. Transfixed, he watches the strange fungal migration. A warm, charming smile spreads across his face as he watches them. Finding the scene utterly heartwarming, he walks peacefully beside a tiny, waddling mushroom. One little creature trips on a pebble, and Shu finds it adorable. He watches the whole colony march in a line and happily calls it a mushroom parade. Snapping back to reality, he tells himself this is no time to get lost in a fairy tale. Gently plucking one of the marching mushrooms from the ground, he offers a quick apology. Holding the tiny, captured Alchemist in his palm, he relishes his successful harvest. He keeps gathering the mushrooms one by one, counting them as he goes. At last, he reaches his quest goal of 30 mushrooms. A satisfied smile crosses his face now that the Alchemist part of his request is complete. Now, he shifts his attention to his next target, the mysterious Crescenza honey. He remembers the library gave little information, only noting its use as a seasoning. Smiling at the challenge, he sets off to discover how the flower blooms. Activating his survey skill again, he focuses on locating the Crescenza. Now the scene shifts to the grand, castle-like exterior of the Adventurers Guild. Shulady, Lapis's elven colleague, asked her about the interesting rookie from earlier. Still clearly flustered by the encounter, Lapis says he's not interesting at all. She criticizes his overconfidence and the fact that he broke a guild plate. Shulady becomes intrigued and asks Lapis for more details about the broken plate. Her expression turns serious as she says she has heard of this before. Lapis stares at Shulady, taken aback by the revelation. She asked if that meant someone else had broken a plate before, and Shulady confirmed it. She shares a tale from decades past about a powerful mage who served the royal court. Lapus whispers a question about the shoulder's age and draws a sharp glare from the long-lived elf. Shulty continues, explaining that when the powerful mage tried to register their magic, instantly the guild plates shattered, just as they had for Shu. Laughing, the mage said the plate was too weak to hold their immense power. Lapis wonders aloud whether Shu might have the same power as the legendary mage. Calmly biting her pastry, Shulity says it's possible. They both picture Shu laughing off the comparison as impossible. Lapis argues that having great power doesn't make completing quests any easier. She mentions Crescenza honey quests and says it's known as the newbie crusher. Narrowing her eyes, she explains that 80% of beginners fail this notoriously difficult quest. Amused, Shulety sips her drink and says she is eager to see what he brings back. A cheerful hello from the guild entrance startles Lapis out of her thoughts. Beaming, the Shu returns and announces he has gathered all the requested materials. Lapis and Shulady stare in utter disbelief, call his name, and share a synchronized shock. Lopez says he can't believe he completed the quest that very morning. Clenching her fists, she insists that's not the problem. It's just impossibly fast. She begins the inspection with the pristine vial of collected honey. She reminds him that speed matters in everything. Quality needs to be properly verified. The crescent of flowers' nectar is extremely delicate, held in a fragile pistil. The only correct method is a careful incision from below to remove it. 5 stars indicate the honey is of the highest quality. Lapis gasps in utter shock at the perfect result she sees. She confirms the alchemist and mint leaves were collected in perfect condition. He was glad his careful work met her high standards for the shoe's size and relief. He admits he was so nervous that he almost told her not to jostle it. Lapis goes quiet for a moment, taking in the incredible results. Taking off her glasses, she lets a warm smile spread across her face. It is clear to her that his passion for gathering materials is genuine. Shu gives a courteous goodbye as he leaves the guild desk. Walking through the city, he sees rooftops stretching beneath a cloudy sky. He is pleased to recall receiving a larger reward than he expected. He knows that collecting materials in better condition increases his pay. Back at the Cat's Tail Pavilion, his temporary home, entering the bustling tavern, he announces he's back for the evening. Packed with patrons, the common room buzzes with activity and noise. Looking around, she notices how much livelier the inn is at night. Adventurers of all kinds gather, sharing drinks and friendly conversation. The loud crowd is a bit overwhelming for him. He settles down to eat quietly in his room, but someone calls his name. Turning around, he is surprised Mina called out to him. Mina suggests he reward himself for his hard work by buying a round of drinks. She laughs, recognizing her playful suggestion to spend his new earnings. After a good day, he agrees one drink would be nice. Mina beams with a wide, cheerful grin, glad he agreed. Then she beckons him to follow her, leaving him confused. Glancing back at him, she offers a knowing, friendly smile. She says she wants him to meet someone special. She says again that she wants to introduce him to someone. He follows her, trying to figure out who she might mean. Mina says he'll understand once they get there. Grinning, he wonders whether it might be a fan of his gathering skills. Reality abruptly shatters his fantasy. Mina cheerfully says she has brought their guest. The large shirtless man turns to greet him warmly as a new customer. Choose my panicked screams because it's a bear. Mina proudly introduces the formidable chef Bondel by name. Bandel reaches out a huge hand to offer a friendly welcome. Relieved, the Shu thinks he seems like a good person. After all, he returns the greeting politely, pleased to meet him. The chef's friendly face suddenly goes dark and threatening. Leaning in, he says Shu came all this way to meet his end. Shouting, he orders Shu to eat the food. A magnificent feast is spread out before him, leaving him completely stunned. He asked why there was such a magnificent spread of food. Bandole, now looking goofy, says it's his way of welcoming him. You are deeply moved by the gesture and think he is an incredible person. Shu bows in thanks, and Bandel admits that's only the official reason. A regular explains the chef learns each guest's tastes to prevent food waste. Shu is struck by how dedicated he is to his craft. Bando proudly says that even though he customizes menus, everything is delicious. Chu is amazed by the luxurious food, so different from the village fare. The chef encourages him to sample the city's rare and unusual ingredients. Clasping hands in gratitude, Shu eagerly prepares to eat. First up is a monstrous-looking fish called an egorag. The chef says that despite its intimidating appearance, it tastes exquisite. The chef emphasizes that the fish's intimidating appearance hides its delicious flavor. Eyeing the intimidating dish, she hesitates to try it. Not wanting to be rude, he takes a hesitant bite. His eyes widen in surprise as he says, "It tastes delicious." He is surprised it shows no sign of being fluffy. He praises the dish's perfect spices, pleasing the chef. Bandel eagerly offers the next course for him to try. Before him sits a massive, perfectly cooked steak. Hugh immediately thinks this one looks delicious. He asks if it's okay to hold such a large steak. Bandel urges him to eat because it is his first time. Rubbing his hands together again, he gets ready to enjoy the steak. He takes a huge, satisfying bite of the meat as cheers rise around him. He chose carefully, thinking about the meat's distinct flavor. He notices a wild flavor that pairs well with the berry sauce. He asks the chef what kind of meat it was. Bandel smiles, is about to reveal the most surprising origin. Casually, he reveals it's orc meat. The Shu's face freezes in utter shock. Stammering, he asks if he means the monster orc, and Bandel confirms. According to him, monster cuisine has become very trendy lately. Bandoli says properly cooked monster meat can be delicious. The flavor is addictive and reminds her of wild game. He praises the chef's skill in making it so delicious. Bando laughs with pleasure and tells him to eat more. Stuffed and happy, she thanks him for the incredible meal. He offers to repay the chef later for his kindness. Bando's expression changes, and he says Shu has now said it. Demanding repayment immediately, not later, shocks Shu once again. His demeanor changes again as he begs, shaking with clasped hands. He asks Shu whether Shu will sell him any rare materials he finds. Startled, Shu was confused by the sudden request for materials. The chef says he wants to cook, but rare ingredients cost too much. He remembers another adventure where they found some rare herbs. The adventurers cheerfully agree to show him their finds later. It dawns on her that this is how the chef gets his rare ingredients. Bandel explains he uses the materials to cook a dish for them. He asks Shu if that doesn't sound like a bad deal. Shu accepts the offer enthusiastically and seals the deal with a handshake. Holding a document, she asks aloud who exactly requested him for a job. Lapis says it's unheard of for an F-rank adventure to be chosen directly. With a wink, she says it will greatly boost his rank assessment. This opportunity was a golden ticket to the next level of his career. His eyes light up when he realizes he cannot refuse the offer. Lapis urges him to at least go and listen to what the client has to say. Arriving at a white picket fence, he isn't sure this is the right address. Rereading the request form, he sees the name Mr. Klaus. As he walks through the woods, he feels uneasy about the vague instructions. The path suddenly opens, and he looks ahead, surprised. Before him stands a picturesque house set in a lush garden. A charming, hand-painted sign hangs from a nearby tree, drawing his attention. Completely captivated, he feels the scene belongs in a storybook. Seeing the sign Medikisi, he knows the client must be a pharmacist. He notices a wonderful fragrance coming from patches of medicinal herbs growing in the garden. A small plaque marks a patch of chamomile, confirming his suspicions. Clenching his fist, he bows silently and promises to return someday for the chamomile. A large greenhouse attached to the main building catches his eye. Inside, he sees row after row of carefully grown medicinal herbs. Excited, he wishes he could examine and collect them all. A calm voice asks what he is doing, jolting him out of his reverie. Flustered, the Shu quickly apologizes and asks if the man is Mr. Klaus. The man eyes him suspiciously, questions his shoes, and says nice to meet you. Asking if Shu does not remember him, he bows deeply in apology. Shu admits the man looks familiar, but he can't quite place him. The man gives him an unreadable, slightly annoyed look. Sighing, he pushes his glasses up the bridge of his nose. The gesture jogged his memory, and he recognized the pharmacist from the bathhouse. The pharmacist's Klaus turns away, muttering that forgetting him was rude. Shu enthusiastically praises the medicinal bath and says he is honored by the request. Kluk can't help but crack a small, pleased smile at the earnest compliment. Clearing his throat quickly, he regains his professional composure. He invites Shu in to discuss the request, and Shu eagerly agrees. When they enter Cloud Swan's workshop, it's a bit of a mess. Bundles of herbs hang from the ceiling. Klaus warns him not to touch anything. Shu inhales the complex fragrance that fills the room. The scent feels oddly comforting and very familiar. He notices it smells like his grandmother's house, which leaves Klaus confused. Klaus asks him to wait in the study briefly while he gets ready. Shu enters an elegant room lined with books and specimen cabinets. A collector's delight lights his eyes as he takes in the surroundings. Shelves hold rare materials he's never seen, and he wants to appraise them all. Holding back, he chooses not to spoil the fun of finding them himself. Klaus returns to ask whether his intense focus means he is interested in pharmacology. Shu eagerly denies it, saying he just gets excited when he sees materials. Klaus says he feels strange after hearing rumors about an adventurer like that. To begin their discussion, he offers Shu a cup of tea. The kind gesture delighted her. Klaus says it's his special blend, designed to relieve fatigue. Smiling warmly in thanks, she takes a big, eager sip. His face instantly tightens, showing shock from the intense bitterness. Klaus calmly explains that, of course, it is as bitter as medicinal tea. Klaus takes a sip and has to admit it's quite bitter. Suddenly, a brilliant idea comes to you. He requested permission to add something to the tea, and Cloud agrees. A woman presents a small, elegant vial of golden crusher honey. Klaus is impressed and says it's a high-quality item worth caring for. He inspects the honey with a serious, expert gaze. Shu adds a single drop to his cup as they sit opposite each other. Cheerfully, he offers to add some to Cloud's cup, too. Klaus's cheeks flush slightly as he considers the offer. Agreeing to test it, he feels he's starting to understand the strange young man. They both sip the newly sweetened tea. Shu enjoys the pleasant taste. Noting the bitterness is gone, he says Clouds agrees it's a good way to drink it. Shu jokingly says he recommended it to his customers. Clearing his throat, Klaus feels a bit embarrassed after the pleasant exchange. Setting his cup down, he says it's time to discuss the main topic. He shows Shu a book that identifies the first item as a plant called Yamadoro. She thinks he only needs to dig up the root, but Klaus says that's the hard part. The diagram shows the root's fragile, complex shape and how easily it breaks. She understands this isn't a simple task, and he can't just dig it up carelessly. Listening intently, he follows Klaus's detailed explanation. Cloud emphasizes that even after unearthing it, the fine root hairs must remain intact. She knows this takes precision, not just finding the item. Excitement sparks inside him at the thought of the challenge. The second item is a cacao flower, a rare 3-petal variety. Shenjora now burns with passion, while Klaus explains the common version is useless. The final item is the career root tree's fruit, which responds to magic. Klaus needs it gathered while fully saturated, using as much magic as possible. He warns that adding too much magical energy will cause it to rupture. Surrounded by flames of excitement, the Shu learns that its balance must be perfect. Clouds taps the table to emphasize his point, his gaze serious. He insists he will not pay for materials that do not meet his standards. Then he asked you to decide for him. Shu may refuse the task if it seems too daunting. Her eyes literally blazing, she eagerly begs to be allowed to take the quest. Clouds is stunned by the Shu's intense, fiery reaction. A small smile appears as he calls Shu strange again. Your quest is to collect 3 Yamadoro, 7 Kigyo flowers, and 10 Kururo fruits. As Shu leaves, Klaus reminds him to keep the strict conditions in mind. Shu pauses at the door and asks if Clouds has any samples. Annoyed, Klaus said he would not make the request if he had to. Shu gives a cheerful salute and confirms the 7-day deadline. Klaus watches him walk away and tells him to get on with it. Turning back inside, he sees Shu is already gone. Panic flashes across his face. He realizes he totally forgot to tell Shu where to get the materials. Sighing, he thinks that Shu seems to care about nothing but materials. Already on the path, Shu is happily sketching the Yamadoro in his notebook. Filled with anticipation for his quest, Shu wore a warm smile. Above the quiet rooftops of the Cat's Tail Pavilion, the stars twinkled. Dawn broke, bathing the inn in the soft, gentle light of a new day. He saw Mina sweeping and warmly wished her a good morning. Mina turned around, her expression one of pure surprise when she saw him. Surprised to find him up so early, she just watched him beam. Waving him off, she gently warned him to be careful on his journey. Walking through the hills, he thought about the Klaus's important request. A map showed all 3 materials could be found in the eastern forest. Starting with the most common item, the Kikyo flower, he began the search. Reviewing his notes, he decided to begin by finding the 3-petaled variant. It felt nostalgic, like hunting for a lucky 4-leaf clover. Skipping down the path, he thought this would be a fun challenge. All right, he thought, bracing himself to begin the day's hunt. Standing at the forest edge, he could not use the survey without a sample. Remembering God's words, he felt sure that divine wisdom would guide him. Feeling more confident, he tried to run the survey on the Kikyo. A disappointed sigh escaped him when his initial scan didn't work. He chose a different approach and used a general survey. His eyes widened with pure joy as the whole forest lit up with signals. The sight of materials and shapes he'd never seen before amazed him. He spotted a few rare materials scattered around. He slapped his cheeks to remind himself that the quest must come first. He started by looking for a common keikyu flower with 4 petals. Relief came when he found a large patch of them almost immediately. His notes showed the 3-petal variant was significantly more valuable. Finding the rare version as the real prize made the hunt exciting. This time for sure, he whispered and focused his intent again. Using his survey skill, he examined the Kiko flowers again. The sheer number of signals that appeared left him completely bewildered. A vast field lay before him, filled with countless blooming Kikyo flowers. He sighed, knowing that going through all of them would be tedious. Then, he noticed some of the glowing lights were a different color. He remembered God's advice that the light's color changes with the item's rarity. He wondered whether this might be the solution he had been searching for. A sudden, brilliant realization lit up his face. Finding a perfect 3-petal keikyu confirmed his theory. Crouching, he realized his skill color-coded items by rarity. An internal debate began over using the easy method or hunting properly. The devil on his shoulder urged him to finish the quest the easy way. He spent the rest of the day searching the old way. He examined each flower carefully, his focus steady. The sun began to set, while the tireless search pressed on into the evening. As dusk fell over the forest, he saw his prize. A cry of pure joy escaped his lips when he found it. Smiling, he said he had finally found the 7th flower. Collapsed from exhaustion, his back ached and his stomach growled. When night fell, he thought about just how difficult the search had been. Deeply tired, he also felt the genuine, satisfying joy of gathering. A peaceful smile crossed his face as he lay there, completely content. Convinced his surveying skill was unmatched, he pictured God approving him. The next morning, Shu lay sound asleep in the bed at the end. Groaning, he wrestled with the covers, his body still sore from yesterday. He sat bolt upright, energized by the thought of new materials waiting for him. Getting ready, he remembered he would need a shovel today. He stopped packing and picked up a small book from his desk. Remembering his promise to Chef Bando, he smiled. In the kitchen, he found the bear man, who greeted him warmly by saying, "Yo." Bandile thanked him and presented the special dish he had promised to make. Shu was completely exhausted and apologized for his haggard appearance. Seeing him like that, the kind chef suddenly came up with a great idea. Turning to the counter, he asked Shu to wait a moment. He offered a neatly wrapped bento box as a gift for Shu's lunch. Moved by the gesture, she burst into tears of gratitude and joy. Grateful, he thanked Bando profusely and promised it would help him do his best. Smiling, he tucked the bento away, feeling re-energized by the chef's kindness. Carefully, he tucked the precious lunch into his magic bag for safekeeping. Bandele's bento made him feel 100 times stronger and ready for the day. "I'm off," he said cheerfully as he left again. Smiling, he was ready for whatever adventures the new day would bring. Arriving at a serene lake, he noted the excellent quality of the water. 2 deer drank calmly, showing a healthy ecosystem. A beautiful lake reflected the sky and a distant, majestic mountain. Knowing the Yamadero plant preferred the water, he began his search. First things first, he readied himself to use his survey skill. Shielding his eyes from the sun, he scanned the lakeside. A patch of distinctive heart-shaped leaves caught his eye. A large, healthy cluster of heart-shaped leaves grew. He said, relieved to have found the location so quickly. Now all that remained was to dig up the precious root below. Plunging his shovel into the soil, he starts the back-breaking work. The ground was hard and rocky, and he had trouble digging. He grunted, realizing today's quest would be a real test of stamina. Shrugging off his jacket, he set it down next to his bag. Wiping sweat from his brow, he got ready to keep working hard. After digging a large hole, he became frustrated that the root was still hidden. Perhaps he needed to dig deeper to find his prize. The shovel struck something hard, and he realized he had made a terrible mistake. "I did it now," he cried in dismay as the root snapped. He wished he could use magic to see underground. Suddenly, he had a brilliant idea: clairvoyance. He remembered how his surveying skill could reveal the shapes of materials. He considered using it to map the root system itself. Deciding it was worth a try, he closed his eyes to focus. A calm lake's surface shimmered in the bright sun. A ripple spread outward, showing the reach of his magical energy. Yamadoro was observed, and he ordered his focus power unleashed. A gasp of pure astonishment escaped him at the image in his mind. A vivid, glowing image of the root system formed in his mind. Treating his skill as his master, he prepared to dig with careful precision. If all goes well, he expects to finish the request soon. Glancing across the calm lakeside, he plans his next move. He remembers Bando's words and knows a feast after hard work is special. Casting a water ball spell with confidence, he forms a sphere of water. Relieved, he notices his control over his magic improving. Surveying let him gather plenty of Yamadoro, but digging was messy. He's all cleaned up, so it's finally time for lunch. Light fills his eyes as he opens the bento box. He notices a thick, fluffy cage packed with the alkenko mushrooms he gathered. Breathing in the aroma of cheese and mushroom, he thanks Bando for the meal. At his first bite, his face shows pure culinary bliss. He's struck by the mushroom's rich aroma and deep umami flavor. He wolfed down the quiche and called Bandela a genius for the flavor combination. He quickly finishes the whole delicious meal. Rattling his utensils, he says the meal was delicious. Leaning back contentedly, he feels completely full and happy after the meal. Relaxing at the water's edge, he enjoys the calm afternoon breeze. Startled awake, he realizes he nearly fell completely asleep. He remembers one more material remains on Klaus's request list. Pumping his fist, he is determined to find the last item by day's end. Following a path, he moves into the deeper, darker part of the forest. Noticing the dim light, he realizes it's a perfect setting for monsters to appear. He remembers Klaus's instructions on where the elusive Karuru fruit grows. Knowing his unique skill will protect him from monsters, he feels confident. He activates his survey skill and focuses it on magic stones. Countless sparkling lights fill the forest and reveal a horde of monsters. Seeing so many monsters, he worries he won't be able to avoid them all. He detects the signal of a fast, agile creature. Another signal shows a large, ferocious beast. His gaze falls on a slow, caterpillar-like signal. He finds the slow caterpillar the easiest threat to avoid. His gamer instincts warn him to watch for poison from insect-type monsters. Moving quietly through the undergrowth, he stays alert to avoid being seen. At last, he comes face to face with the creature he has been tracking. The Kayapi Bill monster is contentedly munching on a giant leaf. Shuddering, he admits to himself that he really dislikes bugs. Seeing the monster is too busy eating, he knows it hasn't noticed him. He believes this is his chance to slip by unnoticed. A dry twig snaps loudly under his boot as his foot lands. He panics while trying to help as the alerted monster spits a stream of silk at him. Quickly ducking, he takes cover behind a large tree trunk. He sees the monster is too slow to chase him and will give up. Relief washes over him as the monster turns away, just as he predicted. He eyes the shimmering silk thread, tempted by the prize it might bring. Deciding his life matters more, he runs. Once he's a safe distance away, he stops to catch his breath. Wiping his brow, he feels the new area is finally safe from monsters. To be certain, he uses his survey skill one more time. He swallows hard as the area fills with the glow of countless rare materials. He has trouble picking out his target among so many similar-looking fruits. He searches his memory for the Kururu fruit illustration in Klaus's book. Rather than rely solely on his skill, he decides to test his own eye. He rejects a fruit because it's too round and the color is wrong. Another draws near, but he notices the leaves are the wrong shape. His eyes widen when he finally finds a plant that looks like a perfect match. Using his appraisal skill, he confirms its identity and explains its magical properties. Triumphantly, he confirms he has found the right Karuru fruit. He's thinking of buying an encyclopedia to make gathering more enjoyable. Now the real challenge is infusing the fruit with magic without letting it explode. He feels confident about his improved control. He is certain he will not repeat past mistakes. The fruit suddenly bursts open, spraying sticky juice across his face. The fruit's fragility surprises him, despite his careful handling. Recognizing that Klaus's quest is a true test, he licks the juice and finds it tasty. His resolve grew stronger. He vows to deliver the highest quality fruit possible. He spends the rest of the day refining his delicate, magical infusion. In the bushes, two small fox-like creatures seem to cheer him on. Breathless from exertion, he waits to see whether his latest attempt finally worked. A cry of pure triumph bursts out at the sight of the perfectly infused, glowing fruit. Holding his final prize high, he is sure Klaus will be satisfied. He knows the fruit's magic will fade, so he must store it quickly. While putting the fruit away, he notices something unusual. He spreads out his haul and notices the first few fruits are smaller than the others. He's worried Klaus will complain about the fruit's inconsistent sizes. Putting off his worries, he heads back to town as dusk falls. Now, he feels he has much better control over his magic. Walking through the woods, he thinks about how magic will make his work better. He believes his new control will make him far more efficient at gathering. By nightfall, he finally returns to Klaus's elegant home. He is concerned that arriving so late might inconvenience Klaus. He notices a warm glow coming from the attached greenhouse. Curiosity piqued, he decides to investigate the light. He wonders whether the pharmacist is still in the greenhouse at this late hour. A voice calls his name from the lush plants in the greenhouse. Klaus asks whether he arrived too late to ask about the request. Shu beams and says he has successfully gathered all the materials. He says he is here to make his final delivery. Klaus gapes at him in utter disbelief. Grabbing Shu, he demands to know how he managed to finish a week-long quest so fast. Klaus composes himself, pushing his glasses up his nose with a quick, sharp motion. Unconvinced, the pharmacist insists on seeing the collected materials. Klaus says he'll inspect the delicate kuru fruits first in his study. He wants to process them before their magic fades, but she remembers something. Cheerfully, Shu reassures him that the magic bag keeps it from degrading. Klaus freezes, his eyes narrowing as he realizes what the Shu just revealed. Firmly, he warns Shu not to show off such a rare item so carelessly. Bluntly, he tells Shu that if he were less trustworthy, Shu would be dead. Shu finally understands how much value and danger his bag holds. Remembering Botan's similar shock, he realized how lucky he was in the small village. Bowing deeply, Shu offers his thanks, and Klaus accepts with a sigh. Kluk chooses to check the other, less volatile materials first. Klaus starts by inspecting the simpler materials, the Kikyo and Yamadoro. Studying the specimens, he has a thoughtful, intensely focused expression. Kikyo has 3 petals, and the Yamadoro root is perfectly preserved. Shu is deeply relieved to learn the materials passed inspection. Klaus praises his skill on a first attempt, and Shu thanks him. He now focuses on the toughest item, the Karuru fruit. Klaus loses his professional composure and gasps at the fruit's enormous size. He has never seen one this large, and wonders how much magic was used. So much magic should have ruptured it instantly, he realizes. Shu raises a hand, looking sheepish as she prepares to explain something to the pharmacist. Admittedly, the first few fruits he gathered were much smaller. While showing the whole batch, he apologizes for the size differences. He is concerned that inconsistent quality makes them unsuitable as products. Klaus looks at him and says she was far too good a person. He refuses to let Shu's materials be given away for free. She watches as Klaus tells him he has far exceeded his expectations. He urges you to be confident so he won't be taken advantage of. Shu listens closely as Klaus pauses before continuing. Flustered, Klaus admits the fruit's value has soared. He admits he can't afford the mom. 6 is his absolute limit. Shu's Miles said brightly that it was fine, since he meant to give them anyway. Klaus harshly scolds Shu for letting others take advantage of him. A small, tense panel shows the pharmacist's lingering frustration. The final deal is set with 7 Kikyo, 3 Yamadoro, and 6 Kururu. Klutz hands over a heavy pouch of coins, much to Cho's astonishment. He says the payment fairly matches the quality of the work. Deeply moved by his integrity, Shu offers a heartfelt, grateful thank you. Klaus finishes up and must preserve the delicate materials quickly. At that moment, he remembers one final piece of advice he had wanted to give. He recommends selling the leftover materials to an alchemist for a better price. He asks Shu to keep it in mind as another option for his wares. Shu seems a bit confused, but takes the pharmacist's advice to heart. Alchemist rings in his mind, sparking a new idea. That night, beneath the crescent moon, he thinks about the mysterious alchemists. Leaning on the balcony at his end, he wonders what they are like in this city. He remembers encountering them in games where materials were combined to make powerful potions. He is curious about the alchemists who work in Granto. The search brings him to a busy shop on a crowded city street. Inside, adventurers are complaining that potions have become very expensive. The shopkeeper says it's a necessary cost for people who risk their lives. The portly man believes he is Mons, an alchemist from Grentel. He spends his days selling goods to local adventurers. Privately, he thinks adventurers are a bunch of idiots. They buy his sometimes shoddy potions without asking a single question. He knows the town's only other alchemist lives as a recluse that forces adventurers to buy his overpriced potions. When Shu walks in, Mons thinks another easy mark has arrived. Shu cheerfully asks the shopkeeper about his high prices. He also reports he doesn't find any particularly effective potions. Mons says skilled material gatherers have become scarce. Shu then offers to sell him some high-quality materials he has on hand. In a condescending tone, Mons asks to see his guild registration first. Shu calmly shows his rectangular guild plate. Because it's only F rank, Monskov assumes the Shu is a fraud. Oblivious Shu asks if he may show him the materials now. Mons slips on his spectacles and prepares to inspect the young man's wares. Stunned, he is struck by the Yamadoro root's flawless quality. Realizing he can make a fortune, he sets out to get it. She waits, with a happy, expectant smile for the appraisal. Mons moves to swindle the young adventurer. He falsely claims the root has gotten worse since it was harvested. He says its value drops sharply every day. He offers Paul Trey 5 bronze coins, while pretending it's a generous favor. Shu's expression darkens as he asks whether that price is really acceptable. A low hum escapes him, and his expression shows he sees the deception. Calmly, he says, "This shop sells lies." Noting the poor quality, he points to the potions on the shelves. Shocked, Mons breaks into a sweat as his greedy scheme is exposed. Shu says he, the gatherer, knows the material's true quality best. He turns to leave and says he will never return to the shop. Mons stood stunned and silent, his face a mask of defeat. Turning away from the dishonest alchemist, she leaves. His business remains unfinished. On the street, he regrets his outburst and considers what to do next. He remembers Klaus telling him to trust his own work. It's hard to believe Klaus would recommend such a crooked shop. He stops trying to remember what else he was told. Another conversation he had about an alchemist comes to mind. Mina mentioned a reclusive alchemist on the west side of town. Aware it might be a wasted trip, he goes anyway. He reaches a quiet rural area with few houses. Curious, he wonders whether an alchemist actually lives here, then notices a young girl. Smiling, he approaches her to ask about the alchemist shop. Surprised by his sudden question, the girl turns around. She asked whether he had business with the alchemist. She was instantly struck by how cute she is. An adventurer skilled at gathering introduces himself. He adds that he specializes in collecting materials. He asks her to take a look at his wares. Caught up in the moment, he asked to come to her home. Laughing, the girl introduces herself as Lumia, an apprentice alchemist. Embarrassed, she realized his assumption was bold and mistaken. Lumia says he was lucky because her master is a recluse. Relief came as she admitted he was just about to give up his search. He asked how far the shop is from their location. Lumia tells him calmly that they have already arrived. A magnificent building appears, and she calls it Safi's shop. Completely bewildered, Shu tries to figure out when the building appeared. He asked Lumia why he hadn't been able to see the shop until just now. It becomes clear her master must have used magic to hide the shop. Lumia apologizes for her master's eccentricities and invites him inside. Lumia frantically tries to smooth her flustered expression. Shu arrives and notices the shop is a bit disorganized. Lumia rushes past him, muttering, "My master," and "idiot" under her breath. Shu glances at the shelves and sees they're a little dusty. He notices the potions are much higher quality than the previous batch. Relieved, he feels he has come to the right place. Lumia offers him a seat and says she will go call her master. She returns with tea and cookies, much to our surprise. Lumia cheerfully says she made the cookies herself as a hobby. Likening perfecting recipes to alchemy amuses Shu. Nibbling a cookie as she leaves, she finds it delicious. Sipping his tea, he decides Safi must be a good person. 1 minute later, he happily finishes his treat. 5 minutes later, he looks around the room and waits patiently. After 20 minutes, he slumps in his chair, feeling bored and tired. A jolt wakes him as Lumia calls his name. Apologizing, she says her master has a cold. She knows this is just an excuse to avoid meeting him. Rising to leave, he says the tea and cookies were more than enough. Lumia asked him to wait and offered to appraise his materials herself. Shu pauses briefly and looks at the young apprentice. She keeps telling him not to worry, that she's an apprentice. Since he came all this way, she explains, there is more to it. She is eager to see his materials. Her sincere plea persuades him, and he agrees. Lumia is thrilled. She formally requested to see the materials he had brought. Shu smiles, says anyone who makes such good cookies must be skilled. After he tells her he believes in her abilities, she thanks him warmly. Lumia waits outside the grand building, preparing for the appraisal. She asks you what materials he has brought for her to look at. He hands her a single heavy bag containing his finds. Later, Shu leaves the shop after paying a generous price. He is pleased that she valued his materials so highly. Next time, he hopes to finally meet the master. Inside, Lumia tells her master that the customer has left. She objects. She worries her master will waste the new materials on practice. Calmly, Safi tells her apprentice not to let anger take over. A batch of high-quality luminous moss arrived from the guild, she says. She doesn't mind, because adventurers' materials are usually poor quality. Lumia, holding a pound, asked if her master was really sure about that. Safi is shocked to learn that Lumia paid 11 gold coins for the Carawero fruits. Grabbing her apprentice, she shouts that the market rate is only 5 gold. Lumia stays calm and tells her master to look at the items. Both Safi and Lumia look stunned by the materials on display. Lumia gushes that she has never seen fruits this big, and Safia is speechless. The Yamadora route was flawless, she said, a sign of real professionalism. Now serious, Safi asked for the name of the adventure. Lumia is taken aback by her master's sudden, intense interest. She tells her the skilled adventurer's name is Shu. Sophie recalls a guild report on luminous moss from an F rank named Shu. Repeating the name to herself, she narrows her eyes in thought. Walking home, she is happy and wonders what he should have for dinner. Inside a tavern, adventurers complain that direct requests are doing all the work. A man cheerfully brings up the very topic of direct requests. His friend gossips about a skilled adventurer who completes quests in record time. The first man mutters, blaming this person for the bad luck he's had lately. Sho overhears and wonders what kind of amazing rank they mean. At the guild, Lapis congratulates Shu for earning a promotion to E rank. He says the journey was long, but Lapis points out it's not that simple. Ranking up in just 1 month is an impressive achievement, she says. She usually says it takes at least 6 months, or even longer. Hugh realizes working for Klaus must have greatly boosted his own reputation. Lapus smiles and asks if he will take on one more request. Her serious tone and grave expression surprise him. According to her, it comes from one of only 4 masterclass alchemists. According to her, the request comes from that very person, which is a great honor. Whispering, she says the guild cannot risk angering a client like that. Sho will at least hear the request in person. Back at the shop, he is surprised to have returned so soon. At the door, Lumia greets him with a warm, welcoming smile. Once again, he stands before the elegant building hidden by magic. Lumia thanks him for coming and says her master is waiting inside. He was finally introduced to the master alchemist, Sophie Fulsathnis. Safi coolly announces she is the one who requested him. Taken aback, she stammered a polite, "Nice to meet you." He bows deeply, but Safi tells him to sit because she hates formalities. Looking serious, she tells him she needs to ask a question. She asked if he remembered delivering glowing moss to the guild recently. The very specific question caught her off guard. Safi nods in understanding while Lumia arrives with tea and sweets. She tells him she will now explain the request in detail. Her gaze stays on him, a faint smile on her lips. She formally asked him to take care of her apprentice Lumia. Lumia is taken aback and flustered by her master's strange words. Sophie studies their reactions with a knowing look on her face. Lumia can only manage to call out her master's name once a week. Shu is at a complete loss over the unbelievable request. Standing up suddenly, he vows passionately to make Lumia happy. Safi holds her head in her hands and tells him to wait. Lumia protests, telling her master to stop and telling Shu not to agree. Safi shrugs it off as a joke, smiling at Shu's earnest reaction. Shu mutters that he would have been fine if it hadn't been a joke. Lumia pleads with her master to stop her from making ridiculous jokes. Calmly, Safi tells her apprentice not to let anger take over. Still confused, Shu and Lumia listen, unsure what is happening. Safi asks him to collect 4 basic low-rank materials. Sho asked if that was all, but Safi said there was one condition. He must take Lumia with him. Shu and Lumia fall silent at the strange request. Synchronized shouts of disbelief echo from the alchemy shop. The proposal to gather materials with the apprentice Lumia left her stunned. Safi, the master alchemist, watches them across the room with sharp, calculating eyes. Completely baffled by the strange request, she'll ask what exactly she means by it. Safi gestures gracefully and begins explaining the National Alchemist exam. The exam includes written tests, compounding tasks, and a practical field test for collecting materials. Safi notes Lumia is knowledgeable but lacks vital real-world gathering experience. Safi formally asked Shu to be Lumia's field guide during the test. Sho protests, asking why Safi, a masterclass alchemist, would not teach her personally. Safi admits she's not very active and prefers to learn in her room. Before Shu can argue further, Lumia cuts him off. Lumia says seeing his neatly gathered materials inspired him deeply. She begs him to let her observe his gathering process in person. Moved by her earnest plea, Shu is at a loss for words. Safi coolly closes the deal and offers a generous reward for his cooperation. She pauses to consider the unusual but heartfelt request. Hearing his agreement, Lumia's face lights up with a radiant, joyful smile. Smiling, she tells Lumia they should do their best together, and Lumia happily accepts. A new, practical concern hits Shu when he turns back. He says he is worried that as a low-ranked venture, he cannot guarantee her safety. Lumia steps forward confidently and reassures him that everything will be fine. She confidently lists her swordsmanship and archery skills and promises she will not be a burden. Shu is stunned to realize the gentle apprentice may be stronger than him. Safi notes the requested materials are in safe areas, so they are unlikely to be dangerous. Her Shu skill at avoiding unnecessary fights is praised as a valuable trait for an adventurer. Safi, with a sly smile, tells them to start their expedition the next morning. Lumia beams with excitement, and she and Shu accept the terms. As dusk falls, preparations for the journey begin. Shu packs supplies carefully in his room, including extra potions for his new partner. Looking back, he realizes this is the first time he's ever worked in a party. Forming his first party gives him an odd thrill. He remembers teaming up with others back in his gaming days to collect materials. Remembering what they achieved together brings a contented smile to his face. He quickly pushes aside the nostalgia and tells himself to stay focused on the mission. Determined to honor Safi's trust, he takes the task seriously. The next morning, Lumia arrives fully equipped and greets him with a bright, cheerful smile. Returning the greeting, she will be slightly taken aback by her transformation into a warrior. Noticing her different aura, he comments, but she thinks her gear is quite standard. Lumia notices he is dressed as usual, which makes him flustered. Clearing his throat, he prepares to defend his unconventional outfit. Proudly, he says comfortable clothes are his rule at gatherings to impress Lumia. He can't shake the feeling that he looks much weaker standing next to her. Putting his insecurities aside, he clenches his fist with renewed determination. Sho points the way, and they set off for the eastern forest together.